right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Taste of Ollie Winter 2024 preview. Um, sorry, somebody's trying to call me. Um, we have several of our instructors here with us today who are going to share about their classes that they'll be teaching. But first, I thought I would go through a little bit of information. So if you are new to Ollie or looking for some clarification for some information, feel free to at any time unmute yourself and ask a question. But we do ask that if you are not actively speaking, asking a question, to remain muted, just in case your dog barks in the background or your phone rings or anything like that. So our winter term, most classes begin around or after January 8th. There's a couple, no, actually January 8th is it. And we will finish up the term by March 30th. Registration is now open. We have taken several registrations from people already, but there's still plenty of seats available for everything. Let's go to the next slide. You all are seeing my screen, right? Make sure you're seeing the correct screen. Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so Ollie at WVU, we offer lectures, presentations, hands-on experiences, group discussions, and social events that are all designed for adults 50 plus. However, we do not discriminate. I just had this question from somebody today who's 45 and wants to join. Absolutely, we do not discriminate. We welcome everybody who has a passion for learning. We are one of 125 Osher Lifelong Learning Institutes across the country. We are the only Ollie in West Virginia. There are other lifelong learning programs in West Virginia, but we are the only Ollie, the only Osher supported program in West Virginia. We have chapters in the Morgantown area and the Charleston area for in-person classes and events. We offer a lot of our programming on Zoom. So people who can't get to one of our in-person locations for something, for whatever reason, are welcome to attend on Zoom. You don't have to live. You don't even have to live in West Virginia or Southern Pennsylvania to participate. If you have friends or family, or you live out of state, Carolinas, Florida, Ohio, wherever, you are welcome to join us as well. This is a picture of if you're in the Morgantown area, this is where we are. Most of our in-person events in Morgantown are held at the Mountaineer Mall. This is the entrance that we often recommend to people. Again, that's the Mountaineer Mall off of Greenbag Road. And this is a picture of our classroom B. So when you walk in the door, you'll walk in the mall entrance here. This is what you will see. Our office is just down the hall a little bit. And programming in Morgantown is provided in part by grants from the John Matthew Gay Family Foundation and the John D. Hott Foundation. In the Canaan Valley, we are actually we've backed off on in-person classes quite a bit for this winter and the coming spring, because we just lost our staff member down there, Susan Martino. If any of you are familiar with her, she took another job, and we're very happy for her, but of course we miss her. So while we're offering as much as we can on Zoom, we do have a couple of in-person opportunities in the Canaan Valley still, but watch for more information about a relaunch of the program come July. Ollie membership, we have an annual membership. It runs July 1st through June 30th, and it's only $30. There are a lot of benefits you get with your membership, in addition to being able to register for classes. And then to take the bulk of our classes, we have a term enrollment fee. It's a flat fee of $35, and that allows you to enroll in as many classes as you wish. We do have an occasional class that'll have an extra fee to help cover the cost of materials. But we also have financial assistance available to anybody in need, because we don't want the cost to be prohibitive. We don't want the cost to be a barrier for anyone. This winter, we have over 50 classes and events that will be held in person in Morgantown, a couple in the Canaan Valley, and on Zoom. So basically, here we are. Your next adventure begins here. So to start things off, is Russ Hutchins with us yet?
Yes, he is.
Russ. Okay, Russ, let's turn it over to Russ. Russ Hutchins has been teaching for us for a few terms now. This has been one of the silver linings from the pandemic, is that when we jumped to Zoom and then a lot of Ollies started sharing classes and sharing instructors, Russ reached out and said, "Hey, I've been teaching for other Ollies, and would you be interested in having me?" And so he's joining us from South Carolina. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And he's going to be teaching 3 classes for us this winter. So Russ, I'm going to let you talk about starting with Amelia Earhart.
Okay, welcome everybody. Amelia Earhart is a fascinating lady, and the mystery still continues since her disappearance. There are over 10 different theories of what may have happened to her besides the official government theory and her mysterious vanishing over the Pacific Ocean. We'll look at the events that led up to both attempts to go around the world. She first of all went west and made it to Hawaii and had engine trouble on a takeoff. Came back to California and rebuilt her plane and raised money to make the trip again. And this time her husband and herself decided to go east. And they made it all the way over to New Guinea in Indonesia. And then on the trip between New Guinea and Howland Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, she vanished. That summertime of July 1, 2, and 3 in 1937. So we'll take a look at the events before and what may have happened to her, as well as her biography of her years before she got into aviation and then during aviation. She won many medals, and of course, the big one from the National Geographic, the Hubbard Society Medal, as well as the Distinguished Flight Cross were some of her biggest ones. So come join us. We'll learn about this Lady of the Skies, Amelia Earhart. You want me to talk about the others or wait until they come up?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I had to unmute myself. Amelia Earhart is on Wednesdays, February 28th through March 13th. It's on Zoom. And now I've got all 3 of yours right here together, Russ. So we can go on to Japanese internment camps. That's going to be on Fridays.
Thank you again. I picked a topic of World War II, and there were over 12 different internment camps established after Pearl Harbor in the spring of 1942. To intern Japanese Americans on the grounds that they may be spies during World War II, spying for the Japanese. No case was ever proven out of 120,000 people that were interned between the years of 1942 and 1948. Yes, I say 1948 because the internment went on beyond the end of the war. Most of the Japanese Americans lost everything leading up to the internment and during. And when they got back home, they had virtually to start over again. There were some kind Americans in the different parts of the country, California, Oregon, Washington, that held on to their land and returned it to them after the war. But most lost all their business, whether it be fishing or farming or running a store, because of the racism that arose after Pearl Harbor. We'll take a look at their accomplishments. Many famous accomplishments took place. Children grew up in the camps from a young age. Some even graduated high school. They had high schools in the camps. And many, as soon as they were able to graduate, joined the U.S. Army or Air Force or Navy. And they wanted to contribute to fight the Japanese because they were American citizens. Most notably were the Japanese that were sent to Italy and fought in the European campaign against the Germans and the Italians. And they were the most decorated units of all American servicemen during the war, fighting for America. So we'll look at what it was like living inside the camps. Many of the camps over time between 1942 to 1948 became more and more lenient, more liberal, and they were given more and more freedoms than they were in 1942 and 43. By the time of President Reagan, and the pardon was issued, and Jimmy Carter then followed with with Congress to pay reparations on the damages they lost. But it still wasn't enough to what happened to them during the war. These were all American citizens, and they were locked up behind barbed wire for that period of time. So come join us as we learn about what it was like living in the home front as a Japanese American.
Thank you. Okay, and then the next one, the Supreme Court and the Electoral College. We're going to go back to Wednesdays for this, January 17 through 31.
It's a new one for me, and preparing and researching still. I find more information each day. Come join us as we look at 10 different elections, presidential elections, that have been extremely close in decisions from the time of Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr and John Adams in 1800 all the way up to the present. We'll see how the Congress, according to the Constitution, in the early years of our country and created by the Founding Fathers, had to wrestle with the issue of electing a president. And they came up with the idea of the Electoral College, fearful that mob rule by people in America that were uneducated, had no strong education, where most people could not even write their name, would be electing the president, leader of the United States. So they came up with a buffer between the popular vote and the vote of the Electoral College, which is basically the vote by the states. So the states were choosing the president, not the popular vote. Been controversial since it was created, been changed a lot since Amendment 12, but even changed through political law and acts of Congress all the way up to the present. The Supreme Court got involved for the first time in the election, in the election of Hayes and Tilden in 1876. It was a virtual tie in the electoral count. Tilden won the popular vote, but the electoral vote was basically a tie, and neither candidate had enough to have the majority. So it took House of Representatives several votes, still a tie, and then it went to a special commission, and part of the U.S. Supreme Court was on this commission of 15 people. And the 15-man commission then struck a bargain, a deal, to remove the troops out of the South in exchange for President Hayes to be president. So a very, very close election. Another one was, of course, the election of Lincoln with the divided country, where the southern states were pulling out, as right almost before and after the election of Lincoln. The Lincoln-Breckinridge race in 1860. Another close one was Kennedy and Nixon in 1960. Kennedy won both the electoral and popular vote, but a very, very slim margin. And we'll look at the year of 2000, which is not that far back ago, 24 years, in which Gore actually won the popular vote by a large number, but the electoral vote went to Bush based on the state of Florida. And the U.S. Supreme Court intervened and overruled the Florida Supreme Court. So we'll look at that one. Interesting enough, Florida played an active role in the Hayes-Tilden election in 1876. So a controversial state there, and both involve the Supreme Court.
Well, thank you. We're looking forward to this. I think that sounds really
You're very
interesting,
welcome.
and we appreciate you teaching for us. Thank you.
Thank you for
Okay.
3 classes. I appreciate it.
Up next is Andrea Horton, and she's going to share with us and encourage us to listen to some Jimmy Buffett.
Am I on?
You are on.
Okay. You are invited to become a parrot head for a couple of afternoons this winter. What is a parrot head, you might ask? Parrot heads are Jimmy Buffett fans, united in island escapism, songs, and the love of everything tropical. We will be enjoying a Buffett buffet consisting of videos, songs, and stories by Jimmy Buffett. Admittedly, not the best, brightest, or most renowned singer, composer, or author, but the best at encouraging fun, happiness, and escapism. Jimmy Buffett seemed to perfect my dad's favorite advice, to not take yourself too seriously. When he died this past September at the age of 76, this son of a sailor and graduate of the University of Southern Mississippi and the University of Bourbon Street was one of the world's richest musicians with a net worth of $1 billion. $1 billion. He turned his love of the Florida Keys and everything tropical into big business, including music, concerts, video games, cruise ships, resorts, and merchandise, of course. Buffett combined country, rock, folk, calypso, and pop music into what some have called Gulf and Western, or tropical rock. Most of all, Buffett played to sold out venues around the world for more than 4 decades and developed a near cult following of parrot heads, a term coined by musician Timothy B. Schmidt during one of his concerts in 1985. He encouraged us all to make changes in latitude, changes in attitude, eat a cheeseburger in paradise, waste away in, that is, enjoy Margaritaville, and sail out on Mother Ocean. Join me as we delve into his music, lyrics, concerts, books, and stories. Let's practice a little island escapism because, let's face it, in mid-February, don't we all need a little bit of escape? In addition to music, stories, and discussions, we'll have some tropical snacks, and colorful tropical attire is encouraged, but optional. Suggested optional reading include Tales from Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett and Jimmy Buffett's A Pirate Looks at 50. Both are available on Amazon or at other bookstores. I hope to see you at our Parrot Head parties.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm sure that that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, and being a big Jimmy Buffett fan, now I'm going to be singing those songs the rest of the day. Okay, up next to talk about a recent trip that she took overseas, Karen Long is going to talk to us about Greece.
Yes, we're going to take a February, maybe cold, snowy day and leave that and visit sunny and warm Greece. As Jay said, this was a trip sponsored by Ollie that 5 of us from our local Ollie did this past September. So you're going to come along with some pictures and some things. First off, we started in Athens to see the history. Certainly everybody there wants to go to the Acropolis and see the Parthenon, which we did. So after a couple days there, we took a high-speed ferry to one of many Greek islands. This one was Mykonos. Mykonos is very windy, and we spent a couple nice days there. Unfortunately, we were supposed to go to Delos from there, and it was too windy, and their Coast Guard or whatever they have canceled any ships, including the cruise ships, to move around. So we had to pass on that excursion. But we did some other things, so it was fun. And then lastly, another ferry took us to beautiful island of Santorini, where we spent about 3 days. Beautiful sunsets, which you'll get to see some of. We happened to be there on Volcano Day, so we got to celebrate Volcano Day with the natives, which included fireworks and a nice sail in the caldera. So then we flew back from Santorini to Athens and spent one more day there, and then back home again. So come along and see a little bit of Greece if you like.
Thank you. Wonderful. That's going to be on Wednesday, February 7th at 10 a.m., both Zoom and in person here in Morgantown. So we hope you can join us. Up next, we have 53 Ways to Save the Planet with Stephen Knutson. I'm sorry, did I pronounce that correctly?
That sounds good. My
Okay.
father wouldn't let me say it that way, but it's correct.
Okay.
So, we've been talking about Jimmy Buffett and I've been thinking about Jack Sparrow, but I want to talk about Kevin Bacon here. The book, 50 Ways to Save the Planet, provided practical ways for individuals to make their environment better. They did share the book with friends, but the movement underestimated the power of corporations and even oligarchs who make the big decisions about fossil fuels and consumption. So enter Kevin Bacon, who, according to the Kevin Bacon game, everyone knows him or someone who knows him, and so on. This idea of 6 degrees of separation is the popular view of small world networks. From this point of view, anyone can reach out and find an ally regarding any issue. Emphasizing relationships is distinct from the personal virtue approach exemplified by the original 50 Ways to Save the Planet book that emphasize recycling, gardening, and small or electric cars. Complementary to this approach, one can share ideas to people within one's network to scale the conservation of energy in the planet, and those friends can share their approaches. Part of this is to go back to the original 50 Ways book and learn more about the ideas and their practical implementation. Then referencing attempts to add political and social efforts to save the planet, the small network approach combined with knowledge and practice can scale good practices to the point that there are effects on the global economy, and then the oligarchs will take notice. This approach will not eliminate oligarchs in general, but will weaken their influence and encourage more enlightened leaders. An example is Elon Musk, who for a decade was the champion of electric cars people would want. Another is Bill Gates, whose writing is solutions-oriented. But we could do much better with the likes of Blake Mycoskie or of Tom Shoes or Yvonne Schonard of Patagonia. Imagine people like these energized by networks of knowledgeable consumers sick of business as usual.
Thank you. That sounds very interesting. When I saw your thing come across and you referenced the original book, I immediately thought, I think I know where it is on my bookshelf. I think I know where my copy of it is.
It's really old.
It is. Yes, it's been around with me for a while. So, but looking forward
I have a question for you, just real quick. Do you guys remember on Grand Street the guy with the solar panels and the electric cars, right near the high school?
Anybody? I haven't been around
Paul
Morgantown
Brown.
long
Yes.
enough. Anybody?
Yes.
He is the inspiration for much of this. He's still alive and well, actually. So anyway, that's all I want to say.
Well, thank you. And this class, 53 Ways to Save the Planet, is going to be on Tuesdays, January 16th through March 5th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. It's both Zoom and in person in Morgantown. So please join us. And up next, we have Rabbi Joe Blair, More Contemporary Poetry and Liturgy. Is Rabbi Blair still with us today? There he is.
Would say that I would assume it's the late Rabbi Blair, but
no, I was looking for you. Didn't pop up. All yours.
All right. Thank you. What I will tell you is the class I'm planning to teach is on poetry once again. This time a little bit different. First, I have a number of poems that I'd like to look at from Merle Feld. And I have a short example of one here if you're inclined, but I'll just read it to you quickly and you have a sense of what we're talking about. This is a collection called Longing, Poems of Life. And it's day 3 becomes day 4. We arrive at the hospital, day 3. The doctor says she's in a coma. Now we can sit with her. I had no idea people in a coma can hear. Did anyone know that back then? We held her hand. We wandered in and out. We talked about the funeral and where to sit Shiva. We talked about Narishkeit. We wondered about how long a coma might last. Day 3 becomes day 4. An orderly brings in a breakfast tray. Absurd enough, but on the tray, a paper fold-out turkey because it's Thanksgiving. Had I realized she was still there, still listening, what I would have softly whispered, what I would have sung, how I would have stroked her face and kissed her, held her close. I do remember, though, I called her Lillian. I reasoned she was more Lillian than Mom. I thought, wouldn't that be the name she wanted at the end? At 12:30, her breathing stopped, and then I sang. Pithuli Sha'arei Tzedek Avuvam Odeya. Open for her the gates of the righteous, so she may enter. The other poems I was thinking of were Psalms, and I thought we'd actually look at the Psalms as they appear in one or perhaps two translations, but then we'd look also at versions of them that are more modern and contemporary, one from Psalm Songs by Gaia Aronoff Bernstein, and the other, Opening to You, Zen-inspired translations of the Psalms by Norman Fisher. And the comparison, I think, would be of interest and a sense of being able to perhaps draw a little more out of the text. So I'll look forward to exploring with you, discussing it, and hearing what you think of each of these.
Thank you. And this is more contemporary poetry and liturgy with Rabbi Joe Blair. It's going to be on Tuesday afternoons, February 13th through the 27th from 3 to 4 p.m. on Zoom. All right, next up, Barb Howe is going to be with us. Also a class on Zoom on Thursday, February 22nd at 3 o'clock. Meet some famous West Virginia women.
And let's see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, I will stop sharing mine. So, and
Okay.
there we go.
Are we good?
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Okay, so this is based in part by some people, women that were in brochures that I did many, many years ago. I still have copies if anybody wants them. This is my current list of names. It may change. Whoa, I'm sorry. What happened? Okay, this list may change, but some of these names I hope you'll recognize. Some may be new to you. One of them is Ann Bailey, a Revolutionary War scout between Fort Lee and Fort Randolph at Point Pleasant, famous for making a round trip by horseback to save Fort Lee, which is now Charleston. Look at the images of these women. We'll be looking at how they're remembered. These are some of the ways she was remembered. And Michelle and I were talking about the statue on the right because somehow I think it reminds me of Michelle. But anyway, that's our perspective. Another one is Betty Zane, who probably ran between Fort Henry and her brother's cabin to save Fort Henry by, again, running with gunpowder. This seemed to be what women did. How anybody remembers that she said, "'Tis better a maid than a man should die," is hard for me to remember. But anyway, she saved Fort Henry in September of 1782, which is now, of course, Wheeling. She's remembered by Betty Zane Days in Martins Ferry, which, of course, has to have a 5K run. So maybe that's a field trip for Ollie someday to go run with Betty Zane. The other one today I want to talk about is Lydia Boggs Shepherd Kruger, who again was from the Wheeling area, a hostess extraordinaire. You probably will know most of these names. The Marquis de Lafayette came through North America, the United States in the 1820s, so that's when she would have hosted him. But she was also a very prominent owner of enslaved people. These are the slave census schedules. So we're going to look at how we know about who these women are and how we know what they did. Of course, we don't know the names of the slaves. We have then this very interesting quote from Rebecca Harding Davis that said she was one of the last of the slave owners and a model slave owner. I'm not quite clear what a model slave owner is. But she clearly accumulated more to have 15 by the time of the war, and frequently bought people and had seen the rise and fall of the slave system. Probably the only slaveholder who stood by and saw the liberation of her slaves without regret. So those are just a few of the people we're going to talk about as we go through the course. And I hope to see you on the 22nd.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Thank you, Barb. Looking forward to your class as we always do. Okay, up next, Elizabeth Satterfield. She is going to be talking to us about the New Deal in West Virginia, and her class is going to be offered on Tuesday, February 13th at 10 a.m. Here in person here in Morgantown at the Mountaineer Mall.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I'm the curator and director of education at Arthurdale Heritage in Preston County, and I'll be talking about the New Deal in West Virginia. So we'll be talking about many social programs, experimental communities, public works projects, labor programs, and much more that were a part of the New Deal. And we're going to be focusing specifically on West Virginia. The New Deal had a very deep impact on this state. And we'll look at things like the Civilian Conservation Corps, the Subsistence Homestead Division, which is what Arthurdale was created under, several other acts. We'll be looking at state forest and the national forest, infrastructure, public buildings, public art. There's so much that the New Deal did for the state of West Virginia, and I mean for the entire country, but we'll be looking specifically at West Virginia. So I'm hoping you can come to see in Morgantown and join us for this discussion. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll try not to talk about Arthurdale too much, even though that's what my main focus is at work, but we'll be talking about the New Deal writ large and its impact on the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And perhaps Ollie will plan a trip back out to Arthurdale again in maybe the fall term again or something. So
we'd love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, up next, Ed Johnson is going to be doing a class, The Bridges of West Virginia. It's going to be on Thursday afternoons, January 25th to February 8th. You will notice this is a change in the number of sessions. It's going to be just 3 sessions now. It is going to be offered on Zoom and in person. Ed, would you like to talk about your class?
Absolutely. We're going to make a little trip around West Virginia, looking at some of the bridges, some of the good ones, some of the not so good ones. We're going to start in the Northern Panhandle, and this is not a good time for bridges along the Ohio River in the Northern Panhandle. 3 of them are now closed to traffic. However, the good news is there's been a brand new one that actually was floated into place and then raised up onto the piers. Very unusual and unique. We'll have some videos on that as well. We're going to look at, for example, the oldest railroad bridge, one of the oldest in the country, and it was the longest at the time, railroad bridge down in Parkersburg. It's 150 years old. We'll look at the bridge to nowhere down in southwestern West Virginia. And we'll also take a look at the bridge that the Russians helped build in West Virginia. We'll take a look at some of the covered bridges. Well, actually, we'll take a look at all of them, a couple of them even more in depth than the others. Of course, we'll see the New River Gorge Bridge and a couple, maybe at least the ruins of a couple bridges that were burned during the Civil War. And there will be probably a surprise or two. It's interesting the way West Virginia is now painting their bridges, or at least the colors that they're using. So that's it until we have class. I hope you come and have a good time. I'm going to have a good time. See y'all. Oh, by the way, this is not the bridges of Madison County. So Clint Eastwood nor Meryl Streep will be in our class. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, so again, that's on Thursdays, January 25th through February 8th on Zoom and in person here in Morgantown. Up next, we have World History, the next 10 years with Dwight Allen. This class is going to be Thursdays, February 8th and 15th from 10 to 11:30 in person here in Morgantown and on Zoom.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to do this class because I think the next 10 years are likely to be particularly important in world history. We'll cover a lot of geopolitics, but with a focus on the US versus China. Face-off between a dominant power like the US and a rising challenger like China is not something that you see very often. It's only happened 16 times in the past 500 years. And even then, the countries involved were not as economically intertwined as we are. Now, the more China gets its way, the more things are going to change, not only at the global and national level, but for West Virginia and for us as individuals. So how might this go? Well, we'll take on some interesting questions such as, can China continue to rise? What if it stalls out? Will countries in Europe become more united or more divided? And will Europeans still want to help the US, or will they decide their future lies in Asia? What about Russia's partnership with China? Will that survive? Or will they split and become enemies? As some of us recall, that did happen in the 1960s. Can the US agree on its role in the world? What if Americans, rather than hanging together no matter what, come apart at the seams? That did happen in the 1860s. So what are the answers to questions like these? Well, there's a lot of disagreement. In this class, we'll take a big picture 360-degree approach. Rather than try to aim for one right prediction that hits the nail on the head, we'll look at 4 futures or scenarios. Why? Because if we consider 4 scenarios that capture a wide range of the different views on what could happen in the next decade, whatever does happen will probably at least resemble one of the possibilities that we've looked at. And we'll also have a better idea of what to watch for, how to prepare, and even shape what comes to pass. So I look forward to taking us on this excursion into the future, and I hope to see you in person or online in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, another really interesting class. Okay, up next, Jack Hammersmith, Presidential Encores, Out of Office, Not Life. This is going to be on Wednesday mornings, February 14th and 28th I'm sorry, Jack, is it 3 weeks or just 2 weeks?
3 weeks.
Okay, I think that should be a through 28. Okay, so 14 through 28, 10 a.m., and it's going to be in person in Morgantown and on Zoom. It's all yours.
Thank you. Yes, this class, suggested by others last year, will focus on what happens after the tensions and dramas of the White House years. Although we'll start with Washington, the focus will be on more recent presidents. Speaking of George Washington, he set, as we know, many important precedents. Perhaps the chief one was stepping down gracefully, peacefully, in a world where lifetime monarchies, not limited democracies, were virtually universal. Yet, what we may forget is that he was called back to office by John Adams to head the military when war with revolutionary France loomed as a possibility. He served a brief time, again retired to Mount Vernon, not having a thirst for power or continuance. Other presidents have returned to public service, but not most. John Quincy Adams was elected to the House of Representatives 2 years after a frustrating, unsuccessful presidency to become for nearly 20 years the voice of conscience opposing slavery. William Howard Taft, again, one-term president of limited success, became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And Grover Cleveland, having been defeated for re-election because of a fluke in the electoral system, this gets us to Russ's class. He had won the popular vote, but not the electoral one. He returned to the presidency after 4 years for a split presidency. These days, most former presidents have long lives, write memoirs, oversee presidential libraries, and often begin foundations for good. Jimmy Carter is a good example of all of this, but hardly alone. Still, only in 1958, 169 years after Washington began, did Congress finally provide a pension and other presidents and other perks for former presidents. Before that, they were on their own financially. Some, like Jefferson and Madison, ended up virtually impoverished. Harry Truman largely existed on his World War I pension of $110 a month when he left the White House. At that time, there was no financial support for a transition, no legislative aids, no office space, no Secret Service protection. We only got Secret Service protection after John Kennedy's death. So those are some of the aspects we'll explore and discuss in our class. I hope you can join me. And I must say that of all the history being offered this winter, you can almost have a graduate degree filled out by taking all of these courses. JC?
You're muted, Jacina.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just saying, Jack, yes, thank you. Thanks to our many wonderful, knowledgeable, and generous instructors. You can learn, and we hope you do learn quite a bit by taking OLLI classes. So thank you. I'm very interested in this one. Okay, next up, Susan Arnold, genealogy tips, not trips, tips and tricks, Wednesday, March 6th, 10 a.m., Morgantown, here at the mall and on Zoom.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. What I really wanted to title this session was Genealogy Tips and Tricks for Finding Records in Not So Obvious Places. I don't think the form let me put that many words in the title. But I plan on taking a deep dive into FamilySearch.org, including how to drill down to unindexed records through their catalog, how to use their wiki, and how to put their family tree to good use. I also want to demonstrate how to use the state of West Virginia's IDX system to find records in the courthouse, and how you might use that in conjunction with FamilySearch. And finally, I plan to introduce some sources of online records that might be unfamiliar to you, including databases available both at the WVU libraries and through the Morgantown Public Library. And just so you know, my geographical area of expertise in genealogy is West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. I've done quite a bit of research in Monongalia County dating from the time the first settlers came here around 1770. If anyone has specific questions or specific things that they would like me to cover in this session, please feel free to get in touch with me ahead of time. My email is srnoldwv17@gmail.com, or you can look me up in the OLLI directory. So thank you, and I hope to see many of you on March the 6th.
Thank you. Okay, up next we have Introduction to Bird Watching with Jane Clark, and that's going to be on Tuesday, March 12th at 10 a.m. Here at the Mountaineer Mall in Morgantown. Jane, welcome. Would you like to tell us about your class?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I really enjoyed bird watching, but I know a lot of people might want to learn a little bit more on how to do it. So I'm really going to just start with basically 3 basic things. What do you need to watch birds? So we'll talk about different kinds of binoculars, different kinds of field guides. When and where do I go to see birds? So we'll talk about different times of year and different times of day that you might be more likely to see birds, and maybe some different habitats you can go to see birds. And then finally, how do you start identifying birds? So we can talk about how you say what shape the bird is, what size is it, what habitats it's in, and talk a little bit more both about field guides and apps. So obviously now apps are pretty important. So I love bird watching. It's an activity you can do alone or in the group. And I am the current president of the Mountaineer chapter of the National Audubon Society in Morgantown. So we'll talk about a little bit about what they offer. So this is just a hands-on start to bird watching.
Wonderful. Thank you. Looking forward to it. Okay, up next, Judy. Judy is going to continue her lap dulcimer, and we're going to bring back tin whistle, but I'll let her talk about lap dulcimer first. You want to make sure you unmute yourself there, Judy. Lap dulcimer meets on Monday mornings at 10 a.m., January 22nd through March 4th, and it is here in Morgantown at the mall and on Zoom. So when you are able to, when you're ready, I'll go ahead and share the next slide. Okay, well, I can tell you guys all a little bit of this. While Judy's trying to get herself unmuted, because Judy's been teaching this class for us for several years. So we do have dulcimers available for loan. If you don't have one, we don't recommend going out and buying one until you've tried it, until you learn a bit. So we do have some available for you to borrow. Please, at the time that you register, ask for one. And they need to be tuned to DAA. So when you're getting ready to come to class, make sure that your dulcimer is tuned to DAA. Looks like you have unmuted yourself, Judy.
I'm
so
unmuted now.
Okay, you can take over.
So just to make, we don't have infinite number of dulcimers, but just to make sure that we have enough, if when you go to register, you just indicate to Diane or whoever is taking your registration that you would need to get a dulcimer.
Yes.
If you have a dulcimer already, we will help you on the first class. If you're going to come by Zoom, we really encourage you to come in person on the first day of class, because the hardest thing for somebody who has not done it before is to get a dulcimer tuned. So we will help you get it tuned, but that's not something that can be done. When we are in the class, I use a variety of songs. We will start with what I call sing-along songs, and I use this so that you know what the song is supposed to sound like, so that it is something that if it was a totally strange melody and you went to play it, it is going to be harder. If it is something like the happy birthday song, you know what it's supposed to sound like. And so that's why we start with some sing-along songs like Down in the Valley. I love waltzes. Every term we try different types of songs, because I do have people that repeat from the fall term to the winter term. So in the winter term, we're going to be doing waltzes. And I love doing waltzes, and I've got lots of different kinds of waltzes. But also, since we are going to be having the class during March, we have to do some Irish songs. So we will learn to get ready for St. Patrick's Day. Okay, what comes next? Do you want to?
Well, the next one is your tin whistle class then. To talk about.
Okay, during the winter term, I teach both the dulcimer class and the tin whistle class. The tin whistle class is on Thursday, and you need to get a tin whistle. You can get it ahead of time from, and that's what it would look like. It is a small instrument. It is easy to carry around. Ladies, you can put it in your purse. You can put it in pockets. It is not like carrying a large instrument around so that you can carry it with you. But we do use it in the key of D. Whistles come in different keys. And in order so that we are all playing the same whistle with the same music, I need everybody to have a whistle in the key of D. And if you go to the local music store in Morgantown, Follies, they primarily carry the key of D. You can also get on the first day of class, I will have tin whistles available, and I will put some in the Ollie office, and you can pick it up. The price has gone up as everything. It used to be when I was starting to teach this class, it was $10, and now the cost has gone up to $15. But as a musical instrument, it is still relatively cheap. The class on tin whistles is designed for the very beginner. If you have never played a tin whistle, or maybe have a tin whistle that you found, say, down at Prickett's Fort, they sell in the gift shop some tin whistles. And so if you have a tin whistle, if it is in the key of D, you can bring it. And if you have tried, but we're going to learn the fingering of the notes. We will learn 2 octaves of notes. We're going to learn about breath control and the difference between tonguing notes and slurring notes. And there is a difference. But the main thing that we focus on in the classes is learning a variety of songs. And as we learn a song, whatever the song is, we will start out slowly, and we will learn to increase the speed of the song. We'll get our fingers going faster. Some of the songs that we might be learning, many of them will be your Irish songs. My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, Farewell to Tarwathie. Tarwathie is a place. The Kerry Jig, many of your Irish songs are related around the Irish dancing. But then you have songs like Amazing Grace, an English song, and we'll play some good old American songs. Any song can be played on a tin whistle. It is generally considered to be an Irish instrument, but we will focus on a variety of songs. And if you have a particular song, I am both on the dulcimer class and the tin whistle class. I am always open to suggestions if there is a song. I had one student and she had
Judy,
a
I'm sorry, we have to move. Judy, we have to move on. I'm sorry, we have to move on. Thank you. We have we're really looking forward to hearing that. I love hearing the tin whistle. I get to hear it because they play in the next room. The tin whistle is on Thursday mornings, February 8th through March 14th at 10 a.m. and it's in classroom A here in Morgantown and on Zoom. So we hope that you can join us for one or both of these making music classes. So thank you, Judy. Up next is Kathy Elkins. She's going to talk about her class that she's doing with Linda Yoder. Share the story of your collection. This is going to be on Mondays, February 12th through 26th at 12:45 in the afternoon, and it's going to be in person here at the Mountaineer Mall. Kathy.
Yes. Hello. Hi. I was bouncing this idea off of Linda Yoder when we were at the last open house. There are some people who have collections and some people who just aren't, don't have any collections of anything. I am trying to move our things from Charleston to Morgantown, and one of the things in the process of my moving was to pack up my collection and move it. And every time I touched a piece in my collection, I just fell in love with it all over again. I collect antique purses, and I didn't realize how many I had until I started packing them up. And it got me to thinking about other people who have collections. And wouldn't it be interesting to know of somebody who collected, a specific thing? They could tell me about their collection and how it all started for them. So we're starting with 10 of us who are going to be sharing the story of our collections. Andrea Elkins is going to share the story of her Snow Babies figurines. Linda Yoder will be featuring her batik and ikat fabric collections. Kenton Colvin will be discussing his model trains. I'll be talking about antique purses. Kathy Klein will be talking about her Wendell August forgery holiday ornaments. Susan Dotson will be discussing her tiny nativities. Barry Wendell will be talking about his extensive record albums, cassettes, and CDs collections. Joe Watkins is going to be discussing his board games collection. Lee Beaumont, who has an extensive collection and background in antique doll collections, she'll be discussing dolls. And Regine Silin will be discussing her European clay and ceramic whistles collection. But we're not going to be learning the exact details of the object. We're going to be discussing more about the psychology or the emotional attachment we have to our collections. So how many do you have? What are they made of? Did you start collecting them individually, or did you inherit some of your collection? Do you display them? Are they part of something that you get out for holiday decorations? Is it something that you could use in your everyday life? What's the history of that object through time, if it's part of our culture? And how do you display these things? Do you have an organized way of inventory for your collection? And I think one of the last questions that I wanted to ask myself is, what is the future for my collection? What happens when I'm no longer the caretaker of this collection? Who cares about it? Who knows about it that could be knowledgeable and be a good curator for your collection? So we have 10 people who are going to be sharing those stories. We have one more spot open. If there is an 11th one of you who has a collection, be careful, because what I discovered is that sometimes we are collectors who are hoarders. We have like so many collections, we don't know how to pinpoint just one.
Okay, thank you. It does sound like you have a great collection of people to to talk about their collections. So again, that's on Mondays, and it's going to be here at the Mountaineer Mall. Okay, up next, Andrea Elkins is going to talk about her class, More Amazing Musical Composers. This is going to be on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, January 16th through the 25th on Zoom. So Andrea, would you like to talk about yours?
Sure. Thank you, Justina. Good afternoon, everybody. So this previous fall, I taught the Modern Men of Musical Theater, but I thought it would be fun to go backwards, to go old school. So we're going to be learning about Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, Lerner and Lowe, and Rodgers and Hammerstein. We're going to be talking about their popular shows. Some of you are probably familiar with them, or probably not. And then we're going to be talking about lesser known. So if you are a fan of musical theater, this class is for you, and we're going to have fun. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Thank you. Again, that's on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, 3 to 4:30 on Zoom, January 16 through 25. And up next, we have Kenton Colvin. Kenton, are you still with us here? Okay. So Kenton's class, I'm not sure where his slide ended up, but I'll just give you the information here. I'll read it for you. Kenton is doing a 3-session class, WVU sports teams, a history, and I'm going to let him tell you about it. And we had a conversation today. This is actually going to be part 1 of 2 classes, so you'll get a little sneak preview of an upcoming class for spring term. It's going to be held on Wednesdays, January 17 through 31 at 12:45, both in person here in Morgantown and on Zoom. Kenton, you are muted. Nope, you're still muted. There you go.
I'm okay now, right? Everybody hear me? Okay. Well, I'm planning on teaching about the history of WVU sports, and there are actually 17 sports. And this first 3 weeks, I'm going to be covering men's football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. And then in the spring, on part 2, I'm going to be covering 14 other sports, including baseball and soccer and so forth. As I found out when I started doing this class, there's a whole lot more information and interesting information, and I'm really enjoying it. But I want to be able to pass on things that are really interesting, and I'm going deep into it, and I'm going to get into everything from coaches, players, records, the NCAA involvement like NIL portal, the different conferences we've been in, the facilities, travel, student problems. And I'm going to be talking about things like, as I worked at WVU in a registrar's office, part of my job was to oversee the academic qualification for all the athletes. So I've got some background there that I'm interested in. Plus, I'm an avid fan of all the sports. So I hope that you'll find a lot of interesting information, and it'll be done in 2 parts, 3 weeks this term and 3 weeks next term.
Thank you. Really looking forward to this, especially when you get to the baseball.
I knew that.
Kenton and I talked about this today. He knows about my love for baseball. So, okay. Well, this is just a small collection of what we have to offer. There's many, many more classes. We have art history classes. We have technology classes, other science classes. So we're pretty confident that most everybody can find a class or 2 to take with Ollie during the term. All of these classes you've just heard about are things that you would pay the term enrollment fee that we talked about earlier, that you would pay the term enrollment fee for. And you can take as many of these classes for that one payment of $35 throughout the term. But then there's actually more. So as an Ollie member, I remember earlier I said there's a $30 annual membership, but there are some things you get with that membership that you have access to regardless of whether or not you're taking any of the term enrollment classes. Those include access to a service that we call Ask a Geek. This is Michelle Clishis, who is our professional technologist, will to the best of her ability, will answer questions for you, help you learn your new technology, help you figure out how to fix your phone or update your tablet or any array of technology questions. This is a service that we offer to our members. You simply send us an email, send her an email, and she will work out a time to work with you. We do like to, and she points out that Android and PC is her strong suit, but she will strive to find answers for Apple products as well. Another benefit that comes along with your Ollie membership is shared interest groups. We have a nightly trivia game on Zoom that's open to all Ollie members. We have 2 book discussion groups. We now actually have 2 yarn arts groups. There's one here in Morgantown. It's a long-time group, but we also have, we are starting a yarn arts group in person in the Canaan Valley at the South Charleston Public Library. So watch for information about that. We also have various walking groups, a monthly Let's Do Lunch group, and the New Horizons Band, at least for this year, maybe for a little while, is a shared interest group. If you know how to play an instrument, you are welcome to bring that instrument and join us on Monday afternoons, help in making music with the other members of the Mon River New Horizons Band. We also have what we call special member events, and these are open to all OLLI members. Every Sunday evening, or nearly every Sunday evening during the term, we have a virtual happy hour, 6:30 to 7:30 on Zoom. And this is a time where members get together and chat about anything and everything they want. Topics are often involve food, recipes, books we've watched, books we've read, movies we've watched, our pets, sports, upcoming events, etc. So it's just a fun hour Sunday evenings to unwind and meet other OLLI members. We here in Morgantown, we're going to have a whole grain sampling day. I believe that's the last week of March. It's something we do annually, and you'll get some recipes and have a little bit of food of whole grains, made from whole grains, and that's something that Cindy Gay does for us every year. We also have 2 winter film forums, and Jim Held is going to yes, Barb Howe, yes, thank you, I forgot, we do have an opera interest group now. That's a new interest group here in Morgantown, so if you're interested in opera, reach out to us and we will tell you more about the opera interest group. And we have field trips. One field trip coming up in March. Again, watch for more information about it. But we're going to. We've got a bus. We want to go see an opera at the Pittsburgh Opera in March. So you don't have to be a member of the interest group to come on that. You actually don't even have to be a member of OLLI, but it's something that the interest group is putting together. So yes, thank you for reminding me about that, Barb. So the special member event, the Winter Film Forums, Jim Held. Are you available, Jim? Can we?
Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Okay, I'm going to share. Jim, every winter we do special film forums. Unlike during the rest of the year where we do one every Friday, these are our special ones that are longer films that usually have, well, we take an intermission and we eat lunch. So in between the two. And he sent me a little file here. I'm going to share this with you all. And you can go ahead and talk about these 2 films.
All right. The Winter Film Forum events are not necessarily honoring Elizabeth Taylor, though both of the films feature her. Giant, which is screening on January 26th, was an epic film by George Stevens, which starred Rock Hudson, Taylor, and James Dean. 2 important historical bits. Giant turned out to be James Dean's final film. In fact, he died in a car crash before the film was finished, so the studio had to do some fancy footwork to complete his part. And then Rock Hudson, you probably remember this. He became very close friends with Elizabeth Taylor, and later in his life, he revealed very bravely that he was dying of AIDS. And people outside the industry only saw Rock Hudson as this handsome hunk who played in all the romantic movies, but indeed he was gay. And Elizabeth Taylor came to his defense and raised over $150 million for AIDS research. She remained a loyal friend to Hudson and the many gay people that struggled with this disease in the film Colony. The film, of course, is also taken in part by the history of the gigantic King Ranch in Texas. And it's a remarkable film. If you've never seen it, you ought to. If you have seen it, it's worth another look. And then in February, we're going to turn to Cleopatra, a horse of another color, to say the least. In this film, Elizabeth Taylor became the first actor to earn a $1 million salary, 1962-63. And I can well remember the controversy about this. It made big headlines in the papers. How could anybody be worth $1 million? Well, now the big pictures regularly pay top talent. You hear figures like 20 million plus a percentage of the profits. So Cleo nearly bankrupted Fox. The ultimate budget was over $31 million plus another 13 million for distribution and advertising. It did become the biggest moneymaker in 1963 and did, have a profit at the end. So Cleopatra's story, it had been dramatized by no less than Shakespeare and George Bernard Shaw, and written about by Plutarch and other ancient historians. Taylor was matched by Rex Harrison as Caesar and Richard Burton as Antony. And yes, Taylor and Burton had a steamy affair during the filming. They would later marry twice, and the film is very long, but Oscars went to costume and set design and cinematography. It really is a breathtakingly beautiful film. And I remember as a senior, I was a senior in high school in 1963, working at our local movie theaters. And my bosses there gave me what they call after premiere tickets to drive up to Hollywood. And a friend and I went to the Hollywood Pantages Theater for one of those after premiere showings in the summer of 1963. It was pretty heady stuff. And I've been a fan of Elizabeth Taylor ever since. We will have, as Jay said, a picnic lunch included for each film. So plan to spend a long afternoon watching great epic cinema. And I'd also like to say we're in the spring, we're going to start a 2-part Meryl Streep celebration. And I can't do Meryl Streep without somehow fitting in Angels in America. And so this time next year, I think we're going to try to do a 2-day Angels in American event and 2 parts to Meryl Streep's film between the spring and fall. That's it. And thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, this is just some of the special member events that we have coming up. And again, these are, while some of them, like the film forums will have a fee for the lunch, most of this stuff is available to our OLLI members with all of it without the term enrollment fee, but most of it free of charge. Field trips, OLLI cafes. This is something new that we started in the fall. If there are certain days that we have a space open here. So if you have a morning class and an afternoon class, or one or the other, and want to bring a sack lunch and hang out and have lunch with some of your OLLI colleagues, we highly encourage it. Something that since the pandemic and the food options closed here at the mall, we're trying to re-energize that socialization and having lunch together, because it's a big part of who we are, is having those discussions before and after class. So we encourage you to take a look at when the OLLI cafes are and join us for those. Osher Online, this is something that is new to us. So I'll do a quick thing about that. Osher Online, it's a collaboration with the Northwestern University School of Public Studies, or Professional Studies. And they are offering OLLI members across the country an opportunity to learn with fellow OLLI members from across the country in a wide variety of courses that are taught by study area experts. These classes are all 6 weeks long. 2 of them two of them in the February-March time slot, beginning in the February-March time slots, native ground into indigenous communities and colonization before 1900, and fake news, keys to ethical and impactful journalism, will be held outside of Ollie's normal regular business hours. And I mention this specifically because most Ollie programming is held between 10 and 5 Monday through Friday. We only occasionally do evenings and or weekends, but there's a couple of these Osher online classes that are held outside of those hours, and therefore it allows other people, maybe people who are still working or have really busy lives during normal business hours, to still participate in our program. The Osher online classes, you do not have to pay the term enrollment fee. However, those classes, there is a tuition fee for each of those, and it's $50 per course. Just two other things here on this. We do offer Zoom training. So if you are not familiar with Zoom and are interested in taking things on Zoom, please reach out. We can help you learn how to use Zoom. If there is a class that we are offering only on Zoom, here in Morgantown, and unfortunately this applies only to our Morgantown folks for now. We're looking at options for later for other areas, but there's a couple of art history classes. Say you want to take that art history class and you're not familiar with Zoom. Now all of you on here are, obviously, but if you have a friend who isn't or something, you can call us. We can make arrangements to set up a computer for you here at Ollie to do Zoom with us here. You just have to call and reach out and ask. So and you know what, the biggest benefit I think to Ollie membership is you're going to make new friends who share your interests. We like to say, come for the classes and stay for the people. We also make sure that we are serving our communities. We routinely partner with nonprofit organizations to provide educational opportunities for members of the community. Past partnerships have included the Community Coalition for Social Justice, Main Street Morgantown, the City of Morgantown, WVU Retirees, the Committee for Retired Faculty, the Shack Neighborhood House, and Festival. This winter, as of right now, the only winter community programming we currently have scheduled is some Tai Chi classes at the Shack Neighborhood House on Saturday mornings. There's an introduction class at 11 a.m. For those of you who have been familiar with this, the introduction class used to be at 10, it's now at 11, and an intermediate class at 10. And these are classes that are free and open to everyone. You don't have to be 50 years old. We do ask that you sign up, but you don't have to be an Ollie member. And there's also an upcoming next Wednesday afternoon Committee for Retired Faculty collaboration, where we are going to have a presentation by people talking about PEIA and Humana, and that's on Zoom. You can find information on our website about that and sign up for it. It is free and open to the public. Our winter catalog is available on our website. The simple address is ollie@wvu.org, because it's not an email address, but it's our website. Make sure you spell out the AT. You go to learn more and to catalogs. And updates, because the minute the printed catalog goes to press, there are changes to it. Happens every time. So to stay up to date on what the latest changes are, whether it's schedule changes or added events or something that has to be postponed, you can find that on our news site, which is ollie@wpu.wpcomstaging.com. You can also find this on our clicking on the news button on our regular website. So you just click on this news button and that'll take you to a page that has all of the updates for everything that is going on here. You can register by phone. Like I said, it's already open. You can register by phone at 304-293-1793 or register online. And that button is actually available on our website. It's right above the news button. It's going to say real big, join, register or join. Are there any questions? that is our presentation for this afternoon. I want to say a big thank you to all of our wonderful volunteer instructors. Without them, we would not be doing this. And if there are no questions or comments, then I will say goodbye. Everybody have a wonderful evening. We do have an in-person open house tomorrow between noon and 1:30. If you want to come out for a few snacks and meet some people, it's at the Mountaineer Mall on Greenbag Road.